God's chosen ones. 9. Strange body signs you'll feel right before your final awakening. Your skin itches, your spine tightens, your eyes burn in silence. You've tried vitamins. You've changed your diet, but nothing explains the ringing in your ears, the buzzing under your skin, or the heat that moves through you like a whisper from God. And what if it's not a breakdown? What if your body isn't reacting, it's remembering? Because when your final spiritual awakening begins, the first place it speaks is your flesh. And if you've been feeling things that defy reason, then this message was written in heaven with your name on it. The body that wouldn't be quiet anymore. Maris had always trusted her body. As a former yoga teacher, she knew its rhythms: when to rest, when to stretch, when to push through pain. But lately, nothing made sense anymore. She woke that morning to stillness, no alarms, no rushing, just the quiet hum of dawn through the windows of her small Portland apartment. But something was wrong. Her arms tingled, her legs twitched, and her skin. It felt like it didn't belong to her. No rash, no injury, no diagnosis. Just a strange buzzing under her flesh, like static trying to find somewhere to go. She'd felt it before months ago, just little flutters. But now, it was daily and deeper. At first, she thought it was anxiety, maybe hormones, maybe trauma echoing back through her nervous system. But there was no fear, only silence, and a strange, sacred awareness that whispered, "This isn't dysfunction, this is a message." That's when she noticed the other signs. Her stomach couldn't handle her favorite foods anymore. Her hands grew cold at random. She'd cry in the middle of prayer, not out of sadness, but because her bones felt like they were releasing secrets. And still, no one believed her. Doctors shrugged. "You're healthy." Friends offered supplements. Try magnesium. But her soul knew better, because every time she laid still, something would stir in her spine. Every time she meditated, her ears would ring and her heart would race. Every time she stepped into a room, her skin would tighten like it was scanning invisible frequencies. She wasn't sick. She was shedding, and somewhere inside, she realized her body had held the pain. Now it was releasing the truth. This wasn't a breakdown. It was a sacred reset. God isn't trying to punish me, she whispered to herself in the mirror. He's trying to rewire me from the inside out. And in that moment, for the first time in weeks, she didn't reach for the medicine cabinet. She closed her eyes and listened. Part 1. The divine wound. Where the pain went. When the prayers fell silent. There are some griefs that never make it to the surface. They bypass the tears, slip past the journal pages, and bury themselves somewhere deeper. In the bones, in the gut, in the nervous system. That's what happened to Maris. 2 years ago, she lost more than just a child. She lost the version of herself who still believed God would answer on time. The miscarriage came without warning. No heartbeat, no hope, just silence. The doctors said the body would heal, but they didn't speak of the soul. They didn't mention how the ribs would tighten around memories, how the hips would lock up when she tried to pray, how the weight in her chest wasn't just emotional, it was physical. For months, she smiled. She worked. She led breathwork sessions for women who didn't know she couldn't catch her own. But at night, her hands would tremble, her stomach would bloat with no reason, her heart would race not from fear, but from a frequency she couldn't name. And it wasn't until she whispered the truth into a pillow that no one would hear, that the wound finally opened. I don't think I ever stopped carrying her. It wasn't just the child. It was the hope, the dream, the identity, the version of herself that was softer, simpler, trusting. And as she said the words out loud, her whole body twitched, one long shudder through her spine like something was being released. She wept, but it wasn't grief. It was recognition, because in that moment, she finally understood. Her body had stored what her heart didn't know how to process. the weight in her knees. It was direction she never took, the tightness in her jaw, words she never spoke, the tension in her womb, love she never got to give. "This isn't a symptom," she said aloud. "It's a map." The divine wound was not in her past. It was in her posture, in her body's quiet loyalty to pain. It never deserved to hold. And now God was calling it out. Part 2, the silent hurt. When your body says no before you can. Mare stood in the kitchen, staring at the meal she had made every week for years. Roasted chicken, red wine, chocolate. But tonight, her body rebelled. Not with nausea, not with fear, just a slow, quiet. No, that settled deep in her gut like a locked door. She took one bite and felt it. Not revulsion, rejection. Not from the food, but from her frequency. The wine, once a comfort, now made her feel foggy. The chocolate left a strange tension in her throat. Even the smell of meat made her skin crawl. Though she couldn't explain why, she pushed the plate away, her stomach tightening as if to say, "We don't live here anymore." This wasn't a diet. This wasn't discipline. This was her soul rewriting the script of what her body could hold. She found herself reaching for lemon water instead of wine, craving raw fruit, bitter greens, turmeric, honey, foods that felt alive, clean, holy. At first, she thought it was a phase, but it kept happening. Even grocery stores felt strange. The processed aisles drained her. The fluorescent lights made her blink more than usual, and certain packages, frozen meals she used to stock up on, felt heavy, like grief sealed in plastic. No doctor could explain this, but deep in prayer one night, as her stomach twisted around a bite of old comfort food, she heard it. You can't enter a new realm while feeding the residue of your old self. Her hands went still, tears welled. This wasn't about hell, this was about alignment. Her body wasn't broken. It had become prophetic. It knew what her mind still resisted. It had started rejecting not just toxins, but agreements. Agreements with habits that numbed her. Agreements with identities that no longer fit. Agreements with the woman she used to be, the one who fed herself survival instead of light. And now, the shift was cellular, sacred, final. "You're not losing appetite," she whispered to herself. "You're remembering how to receive only what nourishes your calling." Part 3, the hidden sign. The bones that hold what words cannot. Maris had always thought of her body as a vessel, something sturdy, reliable, and familiar. But lately, that vessel was sending messages she could no longer ignore. Her knees felt heavy in the morning, not from movement, but from stillness, a weight deep inside, pressing, pulsing like something unseen was settling into her bones. Her spine cracked more than usual, but there was no pain, only a strange, magnetic sensation of shifting. Her wrists that had typed endless emails, felt stiff and unyielding despite rest. She remembered an old prayer, "Our bones carry the memory of our lives." And now, those bones were speaking. It wasn't arthritis. It wasn't injury. It was something far older, deeper. Her bones held the grief her heart hadn't yet released, the ancestral burdens that no one taught her to carry, the karmic weight of generations before her. Every ache was a trace of a story untold. In moments of quiet prayer, she felt it like a current, moving up her spine, waves of energy releasing from her cells. She understood then that her body was doing sacred work, not breaking down, but breaking open. The densest parts of her, the bones, were being reprogrammed, not just to hold her physical form, but to carry her new spiritual identity. She closed her eyes and whispered, "God isn't reshaping me to make me smaller. He's preparing me to hold more light." Maris realized this strange pressure was a sign, a hidden sign that her awakening was not just emotional or mental. It was architectural. She was not the same woman who walked into this process months ago. Her body knew the path before her mind could follow, and in the quiet weight of her bones, she found a holy promise. She was being rebuilt, stronger, higher, Whole, Part 4, The Soul Hook, the heat and cold of becoming. When the body speaks the language of the soul. Maris had never imagined that the most profound spiritual conversations she would have would not come from sermons, books, or even prayer, but from the language of her own body. It was a language so subtle, so mysterious, yet undeniable, that it pierced the veil of ordinary experience and invited her into a sacred dialogue with the divine itself. She first noticed the strange sensations on a quiet afternoon. Sitting cross-legged in her small, sunlit living room, the soft murmur of rain tapping against the window pane created a rhythm, a heartbeat, for the invisible dance that was beginning inside her. She closed her eyes and breathed deeply, willing herself to relax into the moment. But instead of peace, a curious restlessness stirred beneath her skin. Her hands grew inexplicably cold, icy, almost numbing, as if winter had descended upon her fingertips without warning. Yet at the same time, her feet burned with an intense heat, a warm fire that radiated from the soles up through her calves, warming the bones and muscles in waves that pulsed with both urgency and grace. This dichotomy of cold and heat was foreign, unsettling at first, yet there was something sacred beneath it. A whisper of transformation. Maris opened her eyes and watched the dance of light on the wooden floor, wondering what it all meant. Was this her body breaking down? Was it a sign of illness? She recalled the countless times she had felt fatigue and pain during her spiritual journey. But this was different. This was not the weariness of a tired body. It was the trembling of a body awakening to a new reality. Weeks passed, and these sensations became her constant companions. The cold would seep into her hands, making them stiff and brittle, while heat would gather in her chest and radiate outward, igniting her senses with bursts of energy that left her breathless. She tried to ignore it, to push through it with her usual determination, but the body's language was persistent. It demanded to be heard, understood, and honored. One day, in a moment of surrender, Maris shared her experience with her spiritual mentor, a woman whose wisdom had often guided her through the storms of her soul. They sat together in the quiet sanctuary of the mentor's home, surrounded by flickering candles and the gentle scent of sandalwood. Maris described the sensations, the fire and the frost, as best as she could, searching for words to capture the mysterious dance. Her mentor smiled gently, eyes shining with knowing. What you're experiencing, she said softly, is the body's sacred language of transformation. The heat you feel is the energy of awakening, an ignition of the divine fire within your being. The coldness is the release, the letting go of old energies that no longer serve your growth. It's a beautiful paradox, the dance of destruction and creation, death and rebirth, all happening within your flesh. Maris listened, her heart opening wider than ever before. She realized that these sensations were not random or frightening. They were signs of a profound inner alchemy. Her body was becoming a vessel for divine recalibration, a temple where the old was being stripped away to make room for the new. She began to notice that these shifts often coincided with moments of spiritual breakthrough after intense prayer. During deep meditation or following powerful emotional releases, the sensations would surge, heat rising like a wave, then ebbing into coolness that soothed and restored. It was as if her body was learning a new rhythm, a sacred heartbeat, aligned with the pulse of the cosmos. In her journal, Maris wrote, "Today, my hands burned with the fire of renewal, and my feet were cold as the earth's quiet stillness. I am becoming both the flame and the frost, both the breaking and the healing. My body is teaching me how to embody the sacred tension of transformation." As she embraced this new understanding, Maris's relationship with her body transformed. No longer did she view it as a vessel to be controlled or a machine to be fixed. Instead, it became a sacred messenger, a faithful companion, whispering truths that her mind could not yet grasp. She began to honor the sensations with reverence. When the heat arose, she welcomed it as a sign of awakening, allowing the energy to flow freely without resistance. When the coldness gripped her, she breathed into it, inviting the release of old patterns and emotions that had long been buried beneath layers of survival and silence. This embodied awareness deepened her spiritual practice. She would spend hours sitting quietly, observing the subtle shifts within her, waves of warmth spreading across her chest, icy tingles tracing the edges of her fingers, the gentle buzzing that sometimes pulsed beneath her skin like a secret melody. Each sensation became a sacred text, a divine message, written in the language of cells and neurons. Maris also noticed how these shifts affected her connection to others. In gatherings, she sometimes felt overwhelmed by the energetic weight of the room, the swirling emotions, unspoken tension, and hidden pain. Her body's heightened sensitivity made her a living antenna, tuning into frequencies beyond the ordinary spectrum of perception. This gift, however, came with its challenges. She needed more solitude, more silence, to recharge and integrate the waves of energy she absorbed. In her solitude, she found solace and healing. She walked in nature, feeling the cool breeze soothe the fire within, and the warm sunlight melt the chill that lingered in her bones. She practiced gentle movements, slow yoga flows, and breath work that honored her body's new rhythm and helped balance the dance of heat and cold. One morning, after a particularly intense night of meditation, Marissa woke to find her entire left side tingling with warmth, while the right side remained cool and still. The contrast was stark, almost surreal. She sat up slowly, allowing the sensations to guide her awareness inward. In the stillness, she felt a profound peace settle over her, a knowing that this energetic polarity was part of her soul's awakening. The warmth on one side was the inflow of new life, new light, new possibilities. The coolness on the other was the gentle fading of old fears, attachments, and limitations. Her body was literally rebalancing itself, aligning with higher frequencies, and preparing to carry the next phase of her divine mission. Maris reflected on the ancient teachings she had studied. How many spiritual traditions speak of the body as an energetic temple, where the union of opposites creates harmony and wholeness. She understood now that her heat and cold were not symptoms to be cured, but sacred currents to be embraced. In a moment of prayer, she whispered, "Lord, teach me to dance with the fire and the frost. Teach me to hold the tension of transformation without fear. Make me a vessel for your light." Balanced and whole, as she opened her eyes, the room felt warmer, brighter, as if her surrender had ignited a new flame within. This flame was not just her own. It was a spark of the divine, flickering inside every cell, every breath, every heartbeat. Maris realized that her awakening was a living, breathing process, not a destination, but a journey of becoming. She was not breaking, she was birthing, and in this birthing, the heat and cold of her body were sacred midwives, guiding her through the threshold of transformation. With renewed gratitude, she embraced the sacred paradox. To grow, one must both burn and freeze, release and receive. The body, once a battlefield of pain and resistance, had become a sacred altar of rebirth. Maris smiled softly to herself, feeling the fire's warmth and the frost's coolness, mingling in perfect balance. She was becoming whole. She was becoming light. She was becoming home. Part 5. The Divine Redirect. When your body becomes the doorway to destiny. Maris woke with a start. The remnants of a dream still pulsed beneath her skin, an electric tingling that traveled like a gentle wave from her crown down her spine. It was neither painful nor frightening, but insistent, like a divine message wrapped in sensation. Her ears rang softly, a high-pitched tone like a tuning fork resonating inside her skull. It was a sound no one else could hear, but it vibrated in harmony with the awakening rhythm of her soul. Sitting up slowly, she realized this was no ordinary morning. This was a threshold moment. Her body, once burdened by pain and resistance, was now becoming a gateway to something greater, a vessel for divine purpose. Weeks earlier, she had received an unexpected invitation to lead a women's healing circle at a local retreat. It was a role she never sought, but felt compelled to accept. And as she stood before the circle, sharing her journey and the strange sensations that had transformed her body, something miraculous happened. A woman approached her afterward, tears streaming down her face. With a trembling voice, she said, "When you spoke, I felt God open something in me that I thought was lost forever." In that moment, Maris understood the truth. Her body's strange language, the tingling, the heat, the sudden waves of fatigue was not a curse, but a calling. The symptoms that had once isolated her now became a bridge to others seeking healing. She was no longer merely surviving her awakening. She was thriving in it. Her body had become sacred ground, where pain was transmuted into purpose. That night, standing before the mirror, Maris traced the lines of her face marked not by weariness, but by the quiet fire of resilience. She whispered to her reflection, "You thought I was breaking, but I am being remade. My body is not my enemy. It is my altar, and through it, I carry the light of those who have yet to awaken." The ringing in her ears softened into silence, and a deep peace settled over her. She was ready to walk the path laid before her, ready to carry the new voltage entrusted to her, ready to embody the divine mission written not just in her soul, but in every cell of her being. And as she closed her eyes, she felt the embrace of grace, a sacred confirmation that the journey was far from over. It was only just beginning. You are not breaking, you are becoming. The sacred journey of awakening. Maris sat quietly in her room, the soft glow of twilight casting gentle shadows on the walls. Her body, once a battlefield of strange symptoms and mysterious sensations, now felt like a sacred temple alive, responsive, and deeply connected to something far greater than she had ever imagined. She reflected on the journey, the skin that had become hypersensitive, the muscles that spasmed in release, the food that no longer nourished but burdened, the bones that held stories of pain and promise, the heat and cold that spoke a language beyond words, the waves of fatigue that demanded rest and surrender, the tingling vibrations under her skin, and the ringing in her ears that carried the frequency of divine downloads. All these were not signs of decay or disease, but sacred signals, messages written in the language of her body, whispering truths her soul was only beginning to understand. For too long, we have been taught to see the body as separate from the spirit, as a machine prone to breakdowns, something to be fixed or medicated when it misbehaves. But what if the body is not an enemy to be conquered, but a messenger to be heard? Maris learned this truth the hard way, when doctors found no cause for her symptoms, and friends suggested she was imagining things. Her body continued to speak loudly through sensations she could no longer ignore. She realized that her physical form was not merely reacting randomly. It was responding intelligently to the invisible shifts unfolding deep within her. Her body became the sacred scroll upon which the story of her awakening was written. Each ache, each tremor, each wave of heat or chill was a verse in the poem of her transformation. The spiritual awakening she longed for was not an abstract idea or a distant dream. It was a living, breathing process that began in the cells, bones, and nerves of her physical being. Awakening is a paradox. It is at once painful and beautiful, frightening and freeing, disorienting and clarifying. Maris's journey embodied this paradox fully. She had to endure the breaking, the dismantling of old patterns, beliefs, and identities that no longer served her. The discomfort of her body was real, undeniable, and at times overwhelming. Yet through that breaking, she found the path to becoming. Her body was being rewritten not to erase her story, but to redeem it. The numbness was lifting, so she could feel again. The tightness was loosening, so she could move forward. The fatigue was demanding rest, so she could renew her strength. The tingling was awakening dormant energies, so she could shine more brightly. In this sacred tension between breaking and becoming, Maurice discovered a holy grace, the heat and cold, the pressure and release, the pain and peace. They were all part of the divine alchemy that turned lead into gold, death into resurrection. If you are watching this and feeling overwhelmed by strange symptoms, by sensations your doctors cannot explain, by fatigue that descends like a heavy fog, by emotions that flood and ebb like wild tides, know this: you are not broken. You are breaking open. You are shedding the layers of your old self, layers hardened by fear, shaped by trauma, weighed down by expectation. Your body is the sacred vessel through which your soul is being reborn. The weird symptoms you experience, the skin sensitivity, the muscle jerks, the food repulsions, the bone pressures, the solar plexus tightness, the temperature shifts, the waves of fatigue, the tingling vibrations, and the ringing in your ears are the signs that your spirit is waking up to its true nature. They are the language of transformation, a code written in flesh and spirit, inviting you to listen deeply, surrender fully, and trust boldly. Spiritual awakening is not just about expanding your mind or lifting your consciousness. It is about embodying the divine light in every cell, every breath, every moment of your life. Maurice's story teaches us that awakening is a full-body experience. It calls us to honor the messages of our physical selves as sacred guides. It invites us to become allies with our bodies instead of adversaries, to walk gently with our wounds, and to celebrate every tremble as a step toward wholeness. When you feel the heat in your spine or the cold in your hands, do not fear. When your joints feel the weight of unseen burdens, do not despair. When exhaustion threatens to overwhelm you, do not resist. Instead, listen, breathe into your body's whispers. Meet each sensation with curiosity and compassion. Allow yourself to be led by the intelligence of your own being. Imagine your body not as a problem to be solved, but as a sacred companion on your spiritual journey. Imagine treating your skin's sensitivity as the antenna of your soul, tuning into higher frequencies of truth and love. Imagine seeing muscle spasms not as malfunctions, but as energetic releases, clearing the path for light to flow. Imagine honoring food aversions as your body's way of guiding you toward purity and alignment. Imagine understanding joint pressure as the recalibration of your ancestral and karmic inheritance. Imagine holding the tension in your solar plexus as the sacred space where your ego is invited to transform into divine will. Imagine welcoming temperature shifts as the dance of energy moving through your temple. Imagine embracing waves of fatigue as holy pauses for integration and renewal. Imagine feeling tingling vibrations as the awakening of dormant spiritual power. Imagine hearing the ringing in your ears as the tuning of your soul's antenna. Receiving divine downloads. This is not fantasy. This is the reality of embodied awakening. Embodied awakening demands surrender. It asks you to release control, to let go of resistance, and to trust the mysterious process unfolding within. Maurice learned this through her own body's rhythms. When the heat surged, she did not fight the fire. She breathed through it. When the cold enveloped her, she welcomed the stillness as a sacred invitation to rest. When the fatigue fell like a wave, she honored it as a necessary reset. Surrender does not mean weakness. It means strength. The strength to lean into the unknown, to trust the divine wisdom working in your cells, to embrace the holy alchemy of transformation. In surrender, you find freedom. In surrender, You find healing in surrender. You become whole. To those watching who feel the weight of these symptoms, who question their sanity, or fear their bodies are failing, hear this sacred truth. You are God's chosen ones. You were never meant to walk this path alone. Your symptoms are signs that you are awakening to a greater calling. You are being prepared for a purpose beyond your understanding. Every tremble, every ache, every whisper of energy is a testament to your endurance, your resilience, and your divine destiny. What has your body been trying to tell you that your mind has not yet heard? How can you honor the sacred messages hidden in your symptoms? In what ways can surrendering to your body's wisdom deepen your spiritual journey? What new vision of yourself is emerging as you listen more deeply to the language of your flesh? If this message resonates in your spirit, if you recognize the sacred signals your body has been sending, then take a moment now. Close your eyes. Place your hand over your heart. Breathe deeply. Whisper a prayer of surrender and gratitude for the miraculous transformation underway within you. You are not broken. You are becoming. You are not alone. You are supported. You are not finished. You are being made new. If this story moved you, here's how you can continue the journey. Subscribe to this channel to receive more sacred messages crafted to support your awakening. Comment below. Share your experience with these awakening symptoms. Your voice might be the light someone else needs today. Share this video. Help others who are walking the path of embodied transformation to understand that their symptoms are signs of sacred awakening, not sickness. May your body be a temple of light. May your symptoms be the sacred script of your soul. May your journey be guided by grace. And may you always remember, you are not falling apart. You are falling into the arms of divine becoming.